Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to do a bit of a discussion about Sigma. Now this is something that I have done multiple videos on already, but I thought I would do another one just because I think Sigma is such an interesting hero, and the release, everything surrounding his release, the fact that he was immediately put into competitive because it's competitive role queue beta, and the fact that I think we've been seeing tons and tons of Sigma. I see Sigma pretty much every game I play. Whether it's on my team, whether it's on the other team, I've been seeing so much Sigma, and that's of course the result of him being a new hero. That will start to go down over time. We'll start to see less and less and less Sigma. I personally have been playing tanks and supports for the most part, but very little DPS. That's my worst role, but I just also don't get it when I queue up for it very often. But the Sigma is such an interesting hero to look at, and I think I wanted to talk about mainly the fact of what is Sigma really? Like, what kind of hero is he? Because he got a barrier. It's a 1500 health barrier, which is technically more than Orissa's, but also less because Orissa can essentially put down 2 barriers realistically before she runs out of the charge for her barrier, before she has to, wait for the cooldown to end. Reinhardt's got a 2000 health, Sting's got a 100 or 1500 health barrier, so it's interesting to see what these heroes kind of have that's similar. But the thing with that Sigma doesn't feel like a main tank, if only because Sigma's barrier isn't the kind of barrier that I feel like you want to push through a choke with. You'd have to be going very, very quickly, and you'd also have to land the barrier at a very specific spot. Because you can't just put the barrier down and then move it more and then move it more and then move it more and more. You have to put it down, then delete it, and then move it again, then delete it and move it again. And the time it would take to do that could be problematic. Now maybe if you have Sigma paired with someone like Zarya, who can bubble the Sigma, you can bubble Sigma and then he can put down the barrier and move it again, and that would be when they're shooting at you or something like that. So there are definitely instances where he could work as a main tank, but in general his barrier doesn't feel like it works very well for a main tank. And then also at the same time, I just feel like his damage output, he feels better as an off tank. He doesn't really work, I think, as a full main tank. Now Stylosa made a video recently with One Amongst Many where they talked about this. He talked about how they think that at the end of the day, he most likely is an off tank, which I think is possible. I mean, you look at his kit, right? Kinetic Grasp is very similar to D.Va with her defense matrix. The difference, of course, is that Kinetic Grasp converts it to shields, while D.Va just eats it. She's a stun, or he has a stun ability and accretion. He's got the hyperspheres, which do a decent amount of damage. He doesn't really work well as a barrier tank, because if you're using his barrier a lot, you're not really getting the most out of what he can do. And if your team is kind of hiding behind you, you also are not really getting the most out of what he can do. Because if he's just putting up barriers and moving his barrier around every so often, it's not going to really work very well. But if you have him paired with an Orisa or a Reinhardt, he can use his barriers a lot better. You can kind of put those barriers in different areas. And then also, if there's an ulting Pharah, for example, and if you are the only barrier, you're not going to want to then they'll take off your barrier just so you can push it up towards Pharah. But if you have an Orisa barrier or a Reinhardt barrier, which can block other damage, well then you're going to be much more able to push your barrier up into the enemy Pharah and get rid of them. And then also, if you're playing Sigma and you have the experimental barrier, you don't necessarily need the barrier. And that's really what it comes down to, is Sigma, I think, works better when he doesn't have to be the only barrier user on the team. So I think you pair him with Sigma, or you pair him with Orisa or Reinhardt, he works the best. Winston, not so much. Winston really is only going to really work with D.Va. That's just kind of how Winston has always been. Works best with D.Va, so I think Sigma's such an interesting hero to look at. Like I said, I haven't actually personally played him in live. I played him on PTR, but I didn't play him live. But I see him every game, pretty much, man. Everyone has him. If it's our team, the other team, obviously, everyone's running Sigma. it kind of frustrates me the fact that we see so much Sigma, because people don't really know how to play him the best yet. The lower in the ladder you get, everything takes forever for lower ladder players to learn. So I guess we have to wait and see what happens with him there. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of compositions are built around Sigma. We're seeing a ton of double barrier compositions with Sigma and Orisa and Symmetra. It's going to be a real rough meta, I think, developing around all this. I don't really particularly like it, though I play tank and support, so I don't really quite know how that'll affect me, but Moira is still pretty solid in the current meta, which makes me happy. I don't really think we'll see a lot of Brig, though if you want real barrier, you gotta run that Brig so you can get all the barriers, even though Brig's barrier is pretty bad because it's only got 200 shields, so it breaks just literally the 2 rockets. So, maybe don't run that. But at the end of the day, I think what matters is you're going to play Sigma in the way you want to play Sigma, right? I'm not here to tell you how you should be playing Sigma, right? Sigma in general is a hero that can be run as a main tank if you have a good off tank. Can be run as an off tank if you have a good main tank. Even if you don't have a great main tank, you can run Sigma as an off tank. You can carry your team. It just comes down to the team composition. There are going to be scenarios where Sigma D.Va or Sigma Zarya or Sigma Roadhog even maybe are good compositions. Then maybe not. Maybe I'm crazy and there's never an instance where those are a thing. But there will most likely be situations where you can run Sigma as a main tank because you need to have a D.Va or a Zarya, and maybe Sigma is your best option at tank. Maybe it's because of a Pharah. Maybe you don't want to deal with this Pharah all the time. This Pharah is really kind of giving you trouble. So you can have defense matrix, and then you can swap over to the kinetic grasp, and you can kind of turn a bunch of damage into shields, which is easy for you, and it makes it better for you as a player to kind of be able to deal with the enemy team. But it's also, how good is this team going to be? Because your barrier is not the best. It doesn't really last very long. I feel like Sigma as a main tank would probably work best on Assault or Hybrid, or maybe Control, or places where like you have kind of a hard point defense and where you're going to stay, because then you don't have to worry about moving Sigma's barrier all the time. You don't have to keep worrying about moving it forward, every time you're doing something. Like if you're on a payload, you can't just like, you have to put it ahead of you, catch the payload up to it, and then delete it again and do it again. And so it wouldn't really work as well on Escort or like the latter halves of hybrid maps if you are running Sigma as a main tank. But if you don't have to move your barrier as much, I think you can work Sigma a little better as a main tank. But I think at the end of the day, he's more of an off tank just because of his kit. I think he works a lot better when you run him with Sigma or with Reinhardt. Mainly Orisa. Orisa's really good right now. She's probably the top tank right now. I don't even think Sigma is that great of a tank, to be quite honest with you. I think that if you're gonna play heroes, Sigma's not even your best bet. I'd rather personally see people running more Zarya Hog, or not Zarya Hog, Orisa Hog, Ryan Zarya even is still pretty good, or just Zarya with Orisa. You have different options you can run, but at the end of the day, I don't even think Sigma is the best option at tank, but we're going to be seeing a ton of him just because he's the new hero. But those are kind of my thoughts on Sigma right now and the way the meta has developed around him, and whether or not I think he's a main or off tank. He's an interesting hero, but I don't really know how big he's going to be going forward. We'll see. what happens, but I'm going to end this video off here. If you enjoyed, consider liking and subscribing. Sorry this video felt very kind of disjointed or anything. I kind of just woke up and I wanted to get this video out to you guys, and I got a lot of stuff going on right now, so I just wanted to kind of get this video out, so I'm sorry about that. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.